Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Tech This Week. My name is Aflat. Hope all of you have been keeping well. So today I'm going to uh, touch upon an area which I find very interesting, and let's see whether you echo my thoughts. Right? Why is it that most revolutionary innovations often come from outsiders? That's the question I'm trying to address and maybe try to answer. Because and I'll to corroborate this statement, I'll give you many examples as we continue this conversation, right? Uh, but because when we think about most well-established industries, we usually picture industry leaders, the players who know their field best. Yet the most disruptive innovations have come from people who are not from the industry. This is something very interesting, don't you think, Anand? And in case you're wondering what I'm trying to allude to, let me give you a few examples. Let me start with the first example from the communication industry. you know I at least remember when I was growing up, we were heavily dependent on only uh, network service providers, who used to provide us these landline services and eventually mobile services, right? And telecom service providers control the entire networking service as they do now as well. So if you had to communicate from one point to another, your only way to do that was through, doing a landline call or through a mobile, right? And more often than not, for the longest, that's what we did. But then there were times out of nowhere, literally, companies like WhatsApp, Zoom, and including, in fact, companies like Skype enter the scene. And what is common for companies between like WhatsApp, Zoom, and Skype? They were not telecom companies. They were tech startups. But what were these startups doing? They were disrupting the communication industry. What does Zoom do? What does Skype do? Now part of Microsoft Teams. What does WhatsApp do? They help you communicate from one point to another. Don't you think so? And if you think, just if you take a step back, if you think the world before WhatsApp, for instance, we could send SMSs, right? MMS never took off. WhatsApp completely changed everything. You could send messages. You could send data-rich messages like voice, video, so on and so forth, right? You could do it, and then you could eventually do, audio calls. Then you could do video calls. You can also do, team calls. And so on and so forth. So I think the world and all of this, mind you, for free. To the end consumer, you're not paying anything, right? And especially when I talk about apps like WhatsApp. So this completely shifted, the way we look at communicate, and we have a lot to thank these tech startups for completely revolutionizing and changing the way we look at communication, and to a very, very large degree, democratizing the entire industry, right? I'll give you one more example. It's not just confined to telecom sector. Let's look at the automobile sector, right? For decades, traditional automakers focused on incremental improvements. Cars that were a bit faster, more fuel efficient, more comfortable, so on and so forth, right? Then enters Tesla, with its high performance electric vehicles, and completely changed the industry. Suddenly, from nowhere, they became the number one auto car manufacturing in the world, right? Unimaginable a few years back. And the best part is, its founder, Elon Musk, came from a tech background. He had nothing to do with automobiles, right? But he saw the future of cars very differently. This shift in thinking just didn't make Tesla, a electric vehicle company. It changed the definition of what a car could be. I think somewhere Tesla's success begs to ask one question. Why could the big car brands not foresee this? Is it possible they were too close to the problem to see the solution? Think of it. I'll give you one more example. This one again from the uh, business of communication, right? Uh, let's look at how Apple's entry into the mobile phone market completely changed the way you look at smartphones or mobile phones for that matter. Before the iPhone, companies like Nokia, BlackBerry, and there were so many others who dominated the mobile business. Particularly Nokia. Nokia was literally the monopoly, and there were jokes around how it completely had a lion's share and so on and so on. And they were dominated by devices which focus a lot on physical buttons, battery life, signal quality, and not to mention that they were brilliant devices. These phones were advanced, and industries insiders saw no reason for them to reinvent themselves, right? But in 2007, Apple, a company which, for in my personal view, no background to mobile experience, launched the iPhone. And Apple wasn't interested in competing on the old terms. Instead, it shifted its conversation from a phone with physical buttons to a fully interactive, internet-capable device that could run apps. So it reimagined what a phone could be, or what a smartphone could be. And again, I know what you're thinking. It was not that iPhone was the first one to come up with a smartphone, right? But its approach of how you look at a mobile phone, centering around the user experience, around an immersive touchscreen interface and an app ecosystem, completely revolutionized how we look at a smartphone, And this forced the mobile industry to rethink its priorities. And within a few years, smartphones became a different breed of devices altogether. I think to better understand the trend, let's explore a concept that I'm coining as outsider's paradox. Let me explain what I personally feel what outsider's paradox is. Insiders may have resources, knowledge, and years of industry experience, but sometimes these so-called advantages can also limit them. They have routines, established practices, and high stakes in existing products. In fact, revenue streams are largely tied to established lineups. So, come to think of it, radical innovation may seem risky, a potential threat to the core business. So they don't want to disturb the apple's cart, as they call it. For example, telcos hesitate to shift away from voice and SMS, and automakers initially stayed loyal to petrol diesel cars because they've invested a lot of money in the core lineups. In fact, meanwhile, outsiders have nothing to lose because they start from zero, right? And everything to gain. They are less attached to how things are done and more focused on what could be done. So an outsider's strength comes from the willingness to challenge every assumption insider holds dear. But this is where it's ironical. When an outsider becomes the industry leader, they risk falling the same trap. And they tend to repeat the pattern that they once disrupted. So as they grow, stability and protecting core products and services can become their focus, making them wary of new ideas. So in this way, the risk becoming vulnerable to the very kind of disruption they pioneer. Right? So net, I like to just draw your attention before I sign up is, most adaptable organizations are those that are open to seeing their industries from new perspective. I think perhaps the secret of staying ahead is always to think like an outsider, always think like a startup. Challenging the status quo no matter what your position is, because as you've seen time and again, those who dare to see things differently, are the ones who truly change the world. That's it from my end. Hope you think on this and share your views. Bye for now.